What would you do if your own mother traded you away for just one horse? Before you judge, let me tell you about Martha Wilson, a 16-year-old girl standing in the scorching Texas heat, watching her life change forever. And trust me, this story goes places you won't see coming. The sun beat down mercilessly as Martha stood frozen, her threadbare dress offering no protection from what was happening. Her mother, Elizabeth Wilson, was haggling with a young Comanche warrior. But this wasn't about livestock or supplies. This was about her. "You'll go with him now," her mother said flatly, not even looking Martha in the eye. "I need that horse more than I need another mouth to feed." The warrior examining her was tall and lean, his copper skin marked with tribal symbols, long black hair tied with leather strips. He couldn't have been more than 25. His dark eyes revealed nothing as he studied the terrified girl being traded like cattle. "Mother, please," Martha whispered. But Elizabeth Wilson had already turned away, leading the dappled gray horse toward their dilapidated cabin. 3 years of drought, disease, and death had transformed her mother into something hollow and cruel. The woman who once sang lullabies was gone forever. "I am Swift Arrow," the warrior said in broken English, his voice deeper than expected. "You come now." Martha glanced back at the only home she'd known. Her father dead 3 years, her 2 younger brothers claimed by disease, her mother consumed by bitterness. Perhaps this was inevitable, but what she didn't know was that this transaction would lead her somewhere she could never imagine. "Will you kill me?" Martha asked, her blue eyes meeting his dark ones directly. Something flickered across Swift Arrow's face. Surprise, maybe. "No. My mother is dead. My sisters, too. Need woman for lodge." Not a wife, a servant, or so Martha hoped as they began the 2-day journey to the Comanche camp. What she couldn't have known was that Swift Arrow had his own secrets, his own pain, and his own reasons for choosing a white woman with strong eyes. The journey stretched across the plains in heavy silence. Swift Arrow shared his food without comment and kept a respectful distance at night. When they finally arrived, Martha's body ached from riding, her arms stiff from holding his waist for hours. The Comanche village was massive, dozens of teepees arranged in a semicircle. Women stopped their work to stare. Some looked curious, others hostile. Martha felt every eye on her skin like a brand. Swift Arrow led her to a teepee at the camp's edge. "You stay here. My lodge." The interior was sparse but clean. Buffalo robes spread across the ground, cooking implements hanging from the center pole. This was home now. But as Martha lay on a buffalo robe that night, studying Swift Arrow's profile in the dying firelight, she gathered the courage to ask the question burning in her mind. "Why did you choose me? Why not a woman from your tribe?" For a long moment, silence. Then, "My wife died 1 winter ago. Fever. No one want warrior who could not save wife." He turned to her, his expression solemn. "You have strong eyes, not afraid. Good for hard life." Martha clutched her father's Bible to her chest, realizing she'd been traded to a widower, a man marked by failure in his own tribe's eyes. The twist in her stomach wasn't just fear anymore, it was something more complicated. The days blurred together as an older woman named Singing Bird taught Martha the endless tasks of Comanche life. Preparing meals, tanning hides, surviving. Though they struggled to communicate at first, Martha proved quick to learn. "He is good man," Singing Bird told her one day as they scraped a deer hide. "His heart closed since Moonflower die. You open maybe." "I'm not here to open his heart," Martha replied carefully. "I'm here because my mother sold me for a horse." Singing Bird's weathered face softened. "Many paths to same river? You here now? Make life." But making life wasn't that simple. As Martha sat outside the teepee one evening sewing a torn moccasin, Swift Arrow returned from a hunting party carrying rabbits. His expression lightened slightly when he saw her. "Good hunt?" she asked. He nodded, handing her the rabbits. "Winter comes soon, need more meat." As she prepared the rabbits, she felt his eyes on her. When she looked up, he quickly turned away. But not before she caught something vulnerable in his gaze that made her heart skip in a way she didn't understand. That night, as a storm raged outside, Martha found herself telling Swift Arrow about her life before, about her father's gentle wisdom, her brother's mischievous laughter, even about her mother's slow descent into cruelty after loss had hollowed her out. Swift Arrow listened silently, his face illuminated by lightning flashes. When she finished, he spoke softly. "My wife say, pain like river, can drown in it, or can let it carry to new place." He looked at her directly. "Your mother drown. You still swim." Martha felt tears sting her eyes at his unexpected insight. For the first time since being traded away like livestock, she wondered if this strange new life might offer something her old one never could. But she had no idea how much stranger and more dangerous things were about to become. Winter descended with merciless intensity. Snow piled against the teepees. Icy winds howled through camp. Martha had never known cold like this, cold that stole breath from her lungs and penetrated her bones. She'd been with the Comanche nearly 3 months now, her hands calloused from work, her skin darker from sun, her place among them fragile but established. One bitter morning, Martha awoke to find Swift Arrow already gone. Singing Bird appeared at the entrance, breath visible in frigid air. "Come, chief council today, all women prepare feast." At the center of camp, women gathered around cooking fires while men assembled in the chief's large teepee to discuss hunting territories with a neighboring band of Kiowa. As Martha worked alongside the other women, a young warrior named Hawkeye approached, someone who'd made no secret of his contempt for her presence. "White woman thinks she is Comanche now," he sneered, deliberately knocking over a basket of roots she'd been preparing. Martha bit back an angry retort and silently began gathering the scattered roots. She'd learned that showing fear or anger only invited more torment. But what happened next shocked her. "Leave her," came Swift Arrow's voice, sharp as a blade. He'd appeared without warning, his tall figure casting a shadow over them both. Hawkeye's face darkened with resentment, but he stepped back. "You bring bad luck to our camp with this white skin," he spat before stalking away. Martha expected Swift Arrow to leave too. Instead, he knelt beside her, helping gather the remaining roots. "Thank you," she said quietly. "His words are wind," Swift Arrow replied, but his eyes tracked Hawkeye's retreating form with wary attention that made Martha's stomach tighten with foreboding. That evening, as the council continued, Martha sat with Singing Bird, learning to weave a basket. The old woman's gnarled fingers moved with surprising dexterity. "Hawkeye dangerous," Singing Bird said suddenly, her voice low. "He lose sister to white settler. Hate fills his heart." Martha's hand stilled. "And Swift Arrow? Does he hate white people too?" Singing Bird considered this. "Swift Arrow see person, not just skin. His father teach him wisdom before dying in battle with Texans." She paused. But pain still there, under surface, like ice under snow. Later that night, as Martha served food to Swift Arrow in their teepee, she asked about the council. Outside, wind drove snow through the smallest openings in the lodge covering. "The council went well?" Swift Arrow nodded. "Kiowa share hunting grounds this winter. Game scarce." He studied her face in the firelight. "You learn fast. Work hard." Martha felt unexpected warmth at his rare praise. "I want to earn my place." "Already have place," he said simply. "As your servant," Martha said, unable to keep bitterness from her voice. Swift Arrow frowned. "Not servant, lodge woman?" He seemed to struggle with his thoughts. "Different from white ways." Before she could respond, shouts erupted outside. Swift Arrow was on his feet instantly, grabbing his knife. "Stay here," he commanded, ducking through the entrance. Martha waited anxiously, listening to the commotion. When Swift Arrow returned, his expression was grim. "Horses stolen. 3 men follow tracks. Thieves head toward white settlement." Martha's stomach clenched. "Will there be fighting?" His eyes met hers. "Maybe. Hawkeye leads tracking party." The implications hung heavy between them. If Hawkeye encountered white settlers, his hatred could trigger violence that would bring retribution upon the entire camp. And what Martha said next surprised even herself. "Let me come with you. I can speak to the settlers if needed." Swift Arrow's eyes widened in surprise. "Dangerous. More dangerous to let Hawkeye start a war," she countered. "I know these people, how they think." A long moment passed as Swift Arrow considered her words. Finally he gave a curt nod. "Get warm clothes. We ride now." What Martha didn't know was that this decision would change everything between them. Within minutes, they were galloping across snowy plains. Martha clung to Swift Arrow's waist, wind stinging her exposed skin. Two other warriors rode with them, faces set with determination. They followed the tracks for hours, the winter sun sliding toward the horizon. Martha's limbs grew numb with cold, but she said nothing, determined not to show weakness. Just before dusk, they spotted smoke from a small cabin in the distance. "Hawkeye's tracks lead there," one of the warriors whispered, pointing to hoofprints heading toward the cabin. Swift Arrow turned to Martha. "You go first. Talk. We watch." Martha nodded, her heart hammering. As she started toward the cabin, Swift Arrow caught her arm. "Be careful," he said, his eyes holding hers with unexpected intensity. "Return safe." Something shifted between them in that moment. Something neither could name, but both could feel. But there was no time to process it, because what Martha was about to walk into was more dangerous than either of them realized. As she neared the small homestead, she saw a man standing outside, rifle ready, while Hawkeye sat on horseback, tension radiating from his posture. 3 horses, clearly Comanche by their markings, were tied to a post nearby. "Hello!" Martha called out, raising her hands to show she was unarmed. "I've come to talk." The settler's eyes widened at the sight of a white woman emerging from the gathering darkness. Hawkeye turned sharply, his expression darkening when he recognized her. "Who are you?" the settler demanded, keeping his rifle raised. "My name is Martha Wilson. I see you have some horses that belong to the Comanche." The man's face flushed. "Found 'em wandering. Wasn't stealing." Martha could sense the lie, but kept her voice neutral. "I'm sure it was a misunderstanding, but those horses are needed by families who will go hungry without them for hunting." "White woman speaks for savages now," the settler spat. Hawkeye's hand moved to his knife and Martha quickly stepped between them. "No one needs to get hurt today. Return the horses, and we'll leave peacefully." A tense silence followed. Then Swift Arrow emerged from the shadows, unarmed, his bearing proud and calm. The other warriors remained hidden, arrows nocked and ready. 3 horses, Swift Arrow said simply. "No trouble." The settler looked between them, calculating his odds. Finally, with a curse, he lowered his rifle. "Take the damned horses and get off my land." Martha exhaled slowly as Hawkeye dismounted to collect the stolen animals. She caught Swift Arrow watching her with a new respect that made her stand taller. But the real surprise came during the ride back. As they rode under a canopy of stars, Martha pressed against Swift Arrow's back, drawing warmth from his body. Something had changed between them, a shift as subtle as the changing of seasons, but just as inevitable. "You were brave," he said quietly, his words nearly lost in the wind. "So were you," she replied. "You chose peace when it would have been easier to fight." His hand briefly covered hers where it rested at his waist. "Sometimes greater strength in peace than war." Martha tightened her arms around him, surprising herself with the gesture. More surprising still was that Swift Arrow didn't pull away. And in that moment, riding through the winter night, Martha realized something terrifying. She was beginning to care for this man in ways that went far beyond gratitude or duty. But she had no idea that the real test of those feelings was just around the corner. Spring came to the plains in a rush of green and gold. For Martha, the changing season marked nearly 6 months with the Comanche, half a year since her mother had traded her for a horse. The transformation in her life was mirrored in the land itself. What once seemed alien now felt increasingly familiar. She moved through camp with confidence, spoke the language with growing fluency, and had formed genuine friendships. Her relationship with Swift Arrow had evolved too, though in ways harder to define. Since that winter night when they'd prevented bloodshed, a cautious warmth had grown between them. They spoke more freely, shared small gestures, and sometimes exchanged stories of their pasts. On a bright morning, Martha was gathering edible roots when she heard the thunder of hooves. Looking up, she saw warriors returning from a hunting expedition, Swift Arrow among them. He scanned the camp until his eyes found hers, and the slight nod he gave carried more meaning than any words could express. Later that day, as Martha prepared deer meat, Singing Bird approached with a bundle wrapped in soft hide. "For you," the old woman said, her eyes twinkling. "Spring ceremony tomorrow. You need proper dress." Martha unwrapped the bundle to reveal a beautiful dress of soft deerskin, decorated with intricate beadwork in patterns of blue and white. She ran her fingers over the craftsmanship in awe. "Singing Bird, I can't accept this. It must have taken months to make." The old woman smiled. "Many hands make work light. Women of camp help. You earn place here." Martha felt tears spring to her eyes. "Thank you. Swift Arrow see you in this," Singing Bird added with a knowing smile. "Maybe finally speak what in heart." Martha felt her cheeks flush. "I don't know what you mean." Singing Bird merely laughed. "Young eyes blind sometimes. Old eyes see clear." That evening, Swift Arrow returned to their lodge to find Martha cooking, her movements now practiced and confident. They ate together in comfortable silence until Swift Arrow spoke unexpectedly. "Spring ceremony important. Marks new beginnings, new life." Martha nodded. "Singing Bird explained some of it to me." Swift Arrow seemed to be considering his words carefully. "Would like you to stand with me, as my woman." Martha's hands stilled, her heart suddenly racing. "I thought I already was your lodge woman." "Different," Swift Arrow said, meeting her eyes directly. "Lodge woman works, keeps teepee. Woman of warrior's heart, different." The implication hung in the air between them. Martha felt a complicated mixture of emotions, surprise, confusion, and something warmer she wasn't ready to name. "I don't know if I'm ready for that," she said honestly. Swift Arrow nodded, his expression unchanged. "No rush. Just wanted you to know my heart." He rose smoothly. "Go to council fire now. Think about ceremony." After he left, Martha sat alone, her thoughts in turmoil. She'd come to respect Swift Arrow, to find comfort in his presence, perhaps even to care for him. But could she truly build a life here? Could she love a man whose world was so different from her own? She had no idea that she wouldn't have much time to decide, because fate was about to force her hand in the most dramatic way possible. The spring ceremony dawned clear and warm. Martha donned the beautiful dress, allowing one of the women to braid her light brown hair in the Comanche style, decorated with small blue beads. When she emerged from the teepee, she felt the weight of many eyes upon her. But the only gaze she truly registered was Swift Arrow's. He stood tall among the warriors, his chest bare except for a ceremonial breastplate of bone and beads, his hair adorned with a single eagle feather. For a moment, their eyes locked across the clearing, and Martha felt something shift inside her, like earth giving way after a long rain. The ceremony began with drums and songs. The entire tribe gathered in a great circle. Martha watched in fascination as dancers moved to the rhythm, telling ancient stories through their movements. Swift Arrow came to stand beside her, his presence solid and reassuring. "You look beautiful," he said quietly in English, the compliment all the more powerful for its rarity. "Thank you," Martha replied, suddenly shy. "Your people's ceremonies are beautiful too." "Our people," he corrected gently, "if you choose." Before Martha could respond, a commotion erupted at the edge of camp. Warriors reached for weapons as a rider approached at speed, raising a cloud of dust. "Blue coats!" the scout called out in Comanche. "Many soldiers coming from south!" The celebration dissolved into urgent activity. Swift Arrow turned to Martha, his expression grave. "Army comes. Maybe peaceful, maybe not. You stay close to me." Martha nodded, fear tightening her chest. She'd heard stories of army campaigns against tribes, of brutal massacres justified as pacification. And what happened next would test everything she'd come to feel. Swift Arrow led her to where the chief was already consulting with his council. Martha listened as the men debated their options: flee, fight, or attempt to parley. White woman could speak for us, one of the elders suggested, pointing to Martha. Tell soldiers we peaceful. All eyes turned to her. Martha felt the weight of their expectation. Swift Arrow's expression remained neutral, but she could see tension in his jaw. I will speak to them if you wish, she said in careful Comanche. But I cannot promise they will listen. The chief nodded slowly. We prepare for all paths. Some warriors hide women and children in canyon. Others stay to talk. If talk fails, we fight. As the camp mobilized, Swift Arrow pulled Martha aside. You should go with women to canyon. Be safe. Martha shook her head firmly. I'm more useful here. If there's any chance to prevent bloodshed, I have to try. Swift Arrow studied her face for a long moment before nodding. Brave heart. Then, unexpectedly, he reached out to touch her cheek. Martha, if fighting starts, run. Promise me. The intimacy of the gesture and the rare use of her name sent warmth through her despite the dire circumstances. I promise. Within an hour, the army detachment came into view. 30 soldiers led by a captain with a hard face and cold eyes. They halted at a distance, and the captain sent a scout forward with a white flag. The chief, Swift Arrow, and 4 other warriors rode out to meet them, with Martha walking slightly behind. She could feel the captain's surprise when he spotted her among the Comanche. I am Captain James Thornton, he announced. I'm looking for a white woman reportedly being held captive by this band. Would that be you, miss? Martha squared her shoulders. My name is Martha Wilson, Captain. I'm not a captive. I live with the Comanche by choice. The captain's eyebrows rose. By choice, miss? If these savages have threatened you— No one has threatened me, Martha interrupted firmly. These people have shown me nothing but kindness. There's no need for your concern. Captain Thornton's expression hardened. Nevertheless, I have orders to return any white captives to civilization. You'll be coming with us. Swift Arrow stepped forward, his face a mask of control. She stays if wants to stay. Her choice. Stay out of this, Indian, the captain snapped. This doesn't concern you. Martha felt anger rise within her. It absolutely concerns him, Captain. Swift Arrow is my— She hesitated only briefly. He is my husband, in all but your law. A tense silence followed her declaration. Swift Arrow's eyes widened slightly, but he gave no other reaction. The captain looked from Martha to Swift Arrow and back again, disgust evident in his expression. A white woman choosing to live as a savage, he said coldly. Your family has been searching for you, Miss Wilson. Your mother reported you kidnapped. Martha laughed bitterly. My mother sold me for a horse, Captain. She can hardly claim concern for my welfare now. The chief spoke in Comanche to Swift Arrow, who translated for Martha. Chief says we offer peace and trade. No trouble with whites. Ask soldiers to respect our territory. Martha relayed this to the captain, who listened with evident impatience. Tell them they're fortunate I have limited men with me today. I'll report that you refuse rescue, though God knows why. But be warned, the army won't tolerate raids or horse theft. Any trouble, and we'll return in force. After translating for the chief, Martha added, We understand, Captain. There will be no trouble from this band. As the soldiers prepared to depart, Captain Thornton leaned down from his horse toward Martha. You're making a mistake, Miss Wilson. These people aren't like us. Sooner or later you'll regret choosing their ways over your own kind. Martha looked directly into his eyes. Captain, it was my own kind who traded me away like livestock. Here, I found people who value me for more than what work I can do, or what price I might fetch. She gestured to the plains around them. I found more humanity here than I ever did in civilization. The captain shook his head in disgust and turned his horse, signaling his men to follow. Martha watched them ride away, her heart pounding with the enormity of what had just transpired, both with the soldiers and with her public declaration about Swift Arrow. When she finally turned to face him, Swift Arrow was watching her with an expression she'd never seen before, something between wonder and profound gratitude. You called me husband, he said quietly when they were alone. Martha met his gaze steadily. I meant it, if you still want me. In answer, Swift Arrow reached for her hand, entwining his fingers with hers in a gesture that transcended all cultural boundaries. Always wanted, since first saw your brave eyes. As they walked back to camp together, Martha realized that the path that had begun with her mother's cruelty had led her, against all odds, to where she truly belonged. But what she didn't know was that this was only the beginning of their journey together. Summer blazed across the plains, painting the landscape in vibrant colors. For Martha, now known among the tribe as Bright Water for the clarity of her blue eyes, the passing months had brought a contentment she'd never thought possible. Following the spring ceremony and the confrontation with the army, she and Swift Arrow had formalized their union in a traditional Comanche wedding ritual. The entire tribe participated in the celebration, even Hawkeye offering grudging acceptance of her place among them. Their life together had fallen into comfortable rhythms. By day, they each attended to their responsibilities. By night, they shared a teepee that had truly become a home, their initial awkwardness giving way to a deep and tender bond. On a particularly hot afternoon, Martha sat with Singing Bird near a shallow stream, preparing reeds for basket weaving. The old woman had become like a mother to her. "You smile more now," Singing Bird observed. "Happiness suits you." Martha dipped her feet in the cool water. "I never expected to find such happiness here. When my mother traded me away, I thought my life was ending. Instead, it was just beginning." Singing Bird nodded sagely. "Great Spirit has strange paths for us. What looks like Death Valley can lead to Mountain of Joy." Their peaceful moment was interrupted by the sound of approaching horses. Martha looked up to see Swift Arrow returning with several warriors from a hunting expedition. Her heart still quickened at the sight of him, tall and proud on his painted stallion. As the hunters dismounted, Martha noticed Swift Arrow favoring his right leg. Concerned, she quickly went to him. "You're hurt," she said, seeing blood seeping through his legging. Swift Arrow shook his head dismissively. "Small cut. Buffalo hunt dangerous sometimes." Despite his protests, Martha insisted on examining the wound back at their teepee. The gash on his thigh was deep, though not life-threatening. She cleaned it carefully with water and herbs Singing Bird had taught her to use, then bound it with strips of clean cloth. "You have healing hands," Swift Arrow said, watching her work. His hand came up to touch her cheek gently. "Bright Water suits you." Name was well chosen. Later that evening, as they sat together outside their teepee watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and reds, Swift Arrow seemed pensive. "Something troubles you," Martha observed. He was silent for a moment. "Soldiers seen again, south of hunting grounds. Building something." Martha felt a chill despite the summer heat. "A fort?" Swift Arrow nodded. "Bad sign. Where soldiers build, more whites follow." The implications hung heavy between them. More white settlements meant pressure on hunting grounds, potential conflicts, threats to the tribe's way of life. What will the tribe do? Chief calls council tomorrow. Some warriors want to fight. Others say move north. Find new territory. Martha considered this. "And what do you think?" Swift Arrow gazed at the darkening horizon. "Fighting brings death. Moving brings hardship." His eyes met hers. "What matters most is protecting our people, our family." The word family resonated deeply with Martha. Though they hadn't yet been blessed with children, the possibility lived in both their hearts. "Whatever comes," she said, taking his hand, "we'll face it together." The following day, Martha attended the council alongside Swift Arrow, a privilege granted to her as both his wife and a bridge between two worlds. The debate was heated, with younger warriors like Hawkeye arguing passionately for resistance, while older members counseled caution. When asked her opinion, Martha spoke carefully. "I know the soldiers and their ways. Fighting them directly would bring much suffering. But I also know that promises made to tribes are often broken." She paused. "Perhaps there is a middle path, neither surrender nor war." The chief, a wise man named Thunder speaking, leaned forward. "What middle path do you see, Bright Water?" "Adapt without yielding," she suggested. "Learn what we can from white ways that might be useful, their medicines, their farming methods, while keeping our own traditions strong, make alliances with other tribes, present a united voice that's harder to ignore. Her words sparked intense discussion. Though not all agreed, Martha felt the weight of being truly heard and respected, a stark contrast to her former life, where as a woman her opinions had mattered little. As the council concluded without a final decision, Thunder Speaking approached Martha and Swift Arrow. "Wisdom in your words, Bright Water," the chief said. "You see with eyes of both worlds, this valuable to tribe in difficult times." Their moment was interrupted by a young boy running toward them, excitement written across his face. "Swift Arrow! Travelers come! White man with Comanche guide!" They hurried to the edge of camp where two riders were approaching slowly, hands raised in peaceful greeting. The white man appeared to be a trader, his pack horse laden with goods. His Comanche guide was from a northern band known to some in the tribe. The visitors were brought before Thunder Speaking, who welcomed them cautiously. The trader, who introduced himself as Thomas Bennett, spoke through his guide, offering trade goods and information. Martha's presence clearly surprised Bennett, his eyes widening when she addressed him in English. "Mrs. Wilson?" he exclaimed. "Martha Wilson from the settlement near Fort Griffin?" Martha was startled to be recognized. "Yes, though I go by Bright Water now. Do I know you, Mr. Bennett?" "I traded with your father years ago. Good man, Robert Wilson. I heard about your situation." He glanced uncomfortably at Swift Arrow. "My situation is exactly as I choose it to be," Martha said firmly. "This is my husband, Swift Arrow." Bennett studied them both with curious eyes before nodding slowly. "Fair enough. Actually, I carry news that might interest you particularly, Mrs. Brightwater." "What news?" "Your mother passed last winter," Bennett said gently. "Pneumonia took her quick, from what I heard." Martha felt Swift Arrow's hand come to rest supportively on her shoulder as she absorbed this information. The news stirred complicated emotions. Grief not so much for the bitter woman her mother had become, but for the loving parent she'd once been, before hardship had hardened her heart. "There's more," Bennett continued. "She left a will. The homestead is yours, legal and proper. 5 acres and the cabin. Not much, but it's something." Martha stood perfectly still, processing his words. Land of her own. Of their own. In a world where indigenous people were increasingly being pushed from their territories, it represented both opportunity and complication. And what she decided to do with this news would change everything. Again. That night, after Bennett had traded his goods and departed with his guide, Martha and Swift Arrow sat close to their fire, discussing the unexpected news. "Land could be useful to tribe," Swift Arrow said thoughtfully. "Place to trade. To meet with whites on our terms." Martha nodded. "A foothold in both worlds. A place no one could easily force us from." "You want this?" he asked, his dark eyes searching hers. "Return to cabin sometimes?" "Not to return to my old life," she clarified, "but to build something new, something that bridges both our worlds." She took his hands in hers. "Only if we do it together." Swift Arrow's expression softened. "Together always. My path is with you, whatever land we walk." Over the following weeks, their plan took shape and gained the chief's approval. They would maintain their primary home with the tribe, but establish a small trading post at Martha's inherited property, creating a neutral ground where Comanche and settlers might meet in peace. On a golden autumn day, Martha and Swift Arrow rode together to visit the homestead for the first time since her departure over a year ago. The cabin stood weathered but intact, the small field overgrown with wildflowers and prairie grass. As they dismounted, Martha felt a strange sense of completion. Not of returning to her past, but of reclaiming it and transforming it into something new. Swift Arrow walked beside her, his presence a reminder of how far she'd come and how unexpectedly life could turn. Inside the cabin, dust motes danced in the sunlight streaming through the small windows. Martha ran her fingers over the rough wooden table her father had built, memories washing over her. "My father always said that true wealth isn't in what you own, but in who walks beside you," she said softly. Swift Arrow placed his hands gently on her shoulders. Wise man. Daughter same. Martha turned to face him, emotion welling in her heart. When my mother traded me for that horse, I thought it was the worst day of my life. I could never have imagined it would lead me to the best days instead. Swift Arrow drew her close, their foreheads touching in an intimate gesture that had become their own. Horse was my wealth that day. You became my heart's wealth, every day after. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across what would become their bridge between two worlds, Martha and Swift Arrow stood together at the threshold, looking not backward to what had been lost, but forward to what they would build together. A life that honored both their traditions while charting a new path through increasingly uncertain times. In the fading light, Martha felt a sense of peace wash over her. The journey that had begun with a cruel transaction had transformed into a love story that defied the boundaries of two different worlds. What her mother had intended as an ending had become, against all odds, a beginning filled with purpose and possibility. We should head back to camp before dark, Swift Arrow said, though he made no move to leave. In a moment, Martha replied, watching the first stars appear in the evening sky. I want to remember this moment, standing between our past and our future, choosing our path together. Swift Arrow's arm tightened around her waist. Many seasons ahead, many paths to walk. As long as we walk them together, Martha said, her heart full with the certainty that she had found her true home. Not in any place, but in the love that had bloomed from the most unlikely beginning. So, there you have it. The incredible true story of Martha Wilson, the girl who was traded for a horse and found a love that transcended cultures, prejudice, and every obstacle thrown in her path. From that scorching Texas afternoon to building a bridge between two worlds, Martha's journey proves that sometimes the worst moments of our lives can lead us to exactly where we're meant to be. What do you think about Martha's choice to stay with Swift Arrow? Would you have done the same in her position? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you enjoyed this story and want to hear more incredible tales of courage, survival, and unexpected love, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.